The Sengoku Jidai, the waning states period of feudal Japan, brings to mind many reminiscing images: grand castles, epic battles, stoic samurai clad in their elegant kimonos, with top-knotted hair wielding their iconic katanas. In the early 15th century, the Portuguese Empire had established a network of trade outposts across the Asian Pacific. By 1543, they had reached southern Japan. The Japanese were heavily reliant on importing silk from Ming China. However, with relations between the two nations stained and trade forbidden by the Ming Emperor, the Portuguese found their lucrative niche by purchasing silks in China and selling them in Japan. These European merchants grew very wealthy as intermediaries between these two Asian powers. The Portuguese were granted permissions to establish a trading port as Nagasaki, which quickly grew into a major hub of commerce. And wherever Europeans ventured, their priests soon followed. The Catholic Society of Jesus, also known as Jesuits, established a strong presence in southern Japan. Their mission, led by priests like Francis Xavier, was to convert the entire country to Christianity. At the height of their influence, several daimyo lords and over 200,000 Japanese, mostly in Kyushu region, had converted to Christianity. Naturally, the Portuguese and their Jesuits counterparts were expanding their influence on other continents as well. By the 1500s, they had established a foothold in Africa, particularly in what is now Mozambique. There, they became active participants in the local slave trade, acquired many unfortunate souls from local chefs, whom they then transported across the maritime empire for labor. It is well documented that a dark-skinned man from Africa became a samurai in feudal Japan, though much of his life remains a mystery. We know little about his country of origin, early life, or even his original name. The Japanese knew him as Yasuke. The story we share here is an interpretation based on the limited information available about his life. There are only theories about the origins of this enigmatic man. Some suggest he was born around 1555 in Mozambique, which was being colonized by the Portuguese at that time. He was likely from the Makua people, a Bantu tribe, though some believe he came from Ethiopia and belonged to Habshi people. Regardless, the saga of this East African man likely began in his childhood, when he was enslaved and handed over to local Jesuits. He was taught the Christian religion and the Catholic way of life, and was raised to embrace the proselytizing mission of the Jesuits order. Eventually, Yasuke was given the Jesuits inspector Alessandro Valignano. Valignano's mission was to audit Jesuits' activities in Japan, so he set sail eastward with his servants and slaves in tow. Thus, in 1579, the man who would become known as Yasuke first set foot on Japanese soil, following closely behind his Jesuit master. To understand Yasuke's experience, it's important to briefly describe the Japan he encountered. The warring states period, known as the Sengoku Jidai, was approaching its peak. Japan had been fragmented into numerous independent fiefdoms since 1467. By 1579, however, most of these fiefdoms had been conquered by the ambitious daimyo Oda Nobunaga of the Oda clan, with the support of his vassal, Toyotomi Hideyoshi. In 1581, Valignano brought his African servant to Kyoto, the vibrant heart of Japanese civilization and the center of Oda Nobunaga power. The Bantu man had likely never encountered a metropolis of such magnitude and activity, nor had the people of Kyoto ever encountered anyone like him. The numerous spread of a giant man with skin as dark as charcoal, the locals were so curious that they broke down the door of the Jesuit church just to catch a glimpse of him. The African quickly became a local celebrity, as the common folk were not only fascinated by his dark skin, but also by his impressive size and height, standing a full foot taller than the average Japanese man. The growing fame of this mysterious foreigner eventually caught the attention of Lord Nobunaga, who ordered the Jesuits to bring the African before him. When they finally met, Nobunaga was astonished. The warlord could hardly believe such a man existed, and was convinced he must be a Portuguese man whose skin had been dyed black. He had the African strip from the waist up, and thoroughly scrubbed. This, of course, confirmed that his skin was naturally dark. Upon realizing this, Nobunaga took a genuine interest in the man, and it was around this time that he finally received his Japanese name, Yasuke. Yasuke soon became more than just a curiosity to Lord Nobunaga. The daimyo came to value the man's integrity and physical strength, declaring that Yasuke possessed the strength of 10 men. By the summer of 1581, Nobunaga's admiration for this remarkable foreigner was unmistakable, and formally requested that Yasuke enter his service. It was now official. The man of humble Bantu origins had become a samurai. Yasuke was granted all the privileges accorded to any other samurai. He was given a piece of land, a household, Japanese garments, and a ceremonial short katana. It is believed that he was taught the Bushido code and trained to a fight as a samurai. Yasuke became one of the Nobunaga's most trusted retainers, and was among the few who had the honor of dining with the great daimyo. Yasuke soon joined his new lord in his mission to conquer all of Japan. He likely participated in the Battle of Tenmokuzan, fighting fiercely alongside Nobunaga's forces to defeat the Takeda clan. It was the first time any Japanese warrior had encountered an African in combat, and the strength and ferocity of Nobunaga's newest soldier were awe-inspiring. After the battle, Yasuke rode at Nobunaga's side as the lord surveyed his newly conquered lands. One can only imagine the awe many felt seeing such a touring foreigner in such a prestigious position at their liege lord's side. On their return to Kyoto, Yasuke mingled with many of Nobunaga's powerful allies, names that have since become legendary. One such figure was Tokugawa Ieyasu, who would eventually unite all of Japan under his rule. In June of 1582, Yasuke and Nobunaga returned to Kyoto. Nobunaga divided his army, sending them out to conquer the territories of the Mori, Yosugi, and Hojo clans. He then retired to the Buddhist temple of Honnoji, where he intended to rest, surrounded only by artists, merchants, poets, and servants, leaving him largely unprotected. Yasuke, however, remained steadfast by Nobunaga's side. Disaster soon struck when an enemy force surrounded the temple, an unexpected and complete shock, as none of Nobunaga's enemies were supposed to know his location. One of Nobunaga's most trusted generals, Akechi Mitsuhide, had betrayed him. Seizing the opportunity presented by Nobunaga's vulnerability, Mitsuhide laid siege to the temple where his lord was sheltered. The treacherous Mitsuhide launched a full-scale assault on the temple with overwhelming numbers. Yasuke sprang into action, leading a desperate defense against the odds. With only a few bodyguards and servants fighting alongside him, he fought valiantly, but it was to no avail. Amidst the chaos and flames, Nobunaga was forced to commit seppuku, an honorable suicide, to avoid capture. However, Yasuke managed to escape Mitsuhide's grasp. He found a horse and rode swiftly to Nijo Castle, where Nobunaga's son, Oda Nobunaga, had gathered his forces. Having failed to protect his lord, Yasuke was now determined to protect his son. He arrived just in time, joining the young lord's army as the traitor Mitsuhide launched another attack. Yasuke fought fiercely in the ensuing battle, once more engaging in Mitsuhide's samurai and slaying many in defense of young Nobunaga. But once again, it was in vain. The Oda forces were defeated, and Oda Nobunaga was captured and forced to commit seppuku. Yasuke too was captured and brought before Mitsuhide. The treacherous general regarded the black man with disdain, declaiming him to be non-human, little more than an animal, because he was not Japanese. Mitsuhide decreed that Yasuke would not be killed and instead sent him to Christian church in Kyoto. Thus, after serving as a noble samurai for over a year, Yasuke was returned to his Jesuit masters. Reportedly, the Christian eagerly praised God upon being reunited with him. It would be comforting to believe that Yasuke's story had somewhat happy ending. Unfortunately, we don't know. All records of his existence faded away after this point, and his ultimate fate remains a mystery, whether he left Japan with the Jesuits or died on islands. From humble beginnings to the east coast of Africa, the grandeur of Kyoto's palaces, Yasuke's rise from slave to samurai is extraordinary, to say the least.